What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hello, and welcome to today's video where we are going to be swatching all the single shadows in my collection. I am actually gearing up for a BYOP series here on my channel, and I thought this would just be the perfect way to kick off this series. So we're going to sit down, pull all of them out of my collection, and we're just going to have a great big huge swatch party. Now, I don't have an enormous collection of single shadows, but I do have quite a few of them, so I don't know if I'll be able to list and link every single one of them down below in the description box, but I will definitely put as much detail down there as I possibly can, as well as what I am wearing on my face today. I did film this look. It should already be up as a short. It is just a try on of all of the products that I got in my 2025 Beautylish Lucky Bag, but it will be down in the description box. So per usual, if you're ever curious about anything I use in any of my videos here on my channel, always to the description box. I squeeze as much information as I possibly can into that tiny little space. But without further ado, let's switch to an overhead view and kick off this swatch party. Alright, y'all, so this is all of the single eyeshadows that I have in my collection as of now, and like I said, it's not an enormous collection, but it is a decent size. So I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to go ahead and start right here with my Odin's Eye singles, and we're going to start with this little palette on top, and this is all of the matte single shadows that they came out with earlier last year. I do have every single one of them. They are in numerical order. I will still let you know what the names of them are, but just in case you kind of lose track, you don't understand me, these are in numerical order. So let's go ahead and start right here with this one, and this one is going to be the shade Agnes, and it's a really pretty peachy orange shade. Oh yeah, really pretty, very smooth, nice and pigmented. The next one we have is going to be Jord or Jord, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. It's J-O-R-D, and that is a really pretty deep purple shade. Oh my gosh, that one is gorgeous. Up next we have the shade Linnea, I think is how you pronounce that. It's a really pretty true red shade, and this one is a true red. It doesn't really buff out to too much of a pinky shade. It is nice and pigmented and very opaque on the lid. The next one that we have is going to be Hella, and this is a really pretty purple shade, as you can see. So let's put that one right there. These are swatching out really, really nicely. I don't think I've ever swatched these before. I've used a couple of them, but I haven't ever sat down and just full on swatched them. But our next shade is going to be Elsa, this really pretty navy blue shade. Ooh, that is really pretty. I like that shade. It's got a good base to it. Next we have the shade Ebba, I think is how you pronounce that, E-B-B-A. And that's a really pretty, like, pea green, like a nasty, murky pea green. I absolutely love that. That's my kind of shade right there. And then we have the shade Burry, I think is how you pronounce that, B-U-R-I. It's a true, like, forest green shade. Very pretty. These swatch out really nicely, and I will say the few that I have used on my eyes performed really nicely as well. These are not quite a year old, so they should still all be good, but let's move on. The next one we have is going to be Joseph. It is a really pretty lavender purple shade. A little bit more on the cool tone, so that one's going to be warm tone and that one's going to be cool tone. And then moving on to our last row, we have this one right here, which is going to be the shade Vigo. It's a really pretty, almost a white shade, but it has a little bit of like a minty undertone to it. Very, very pretty. That swatched out really nicely as well. And then we have the shade Casper, which is this really pretty baby pink shade. See if I can get a good swatch of this. It's very close to my skin tone. You can really tell how cool undertone I am when you swatch a pink shadow on me, but that is a really pretty shade. And then the next one that we have is going to be Anton, and it's this really pretty bright, like peacock blue shade. Oh my gosh, that one is absolutely beautiful. I really like that shade. And then the last one that we have for our mattes from Odin's Eye is going to be the shade William, another really pretty pink shade. So let's see if I can swatch that one out really good up here. There we go. That's a fairly decent swatch. Kind of an awkward place to swatch it, but those are all of the Odin's Eye matte shades. So this is every single one that Odin's Eye has to offer, and they do swatch out really nicely. Like I said, they perform nice. They're well pigmented. I feel like this is their older formula, and before they kind of switch things up a little bit. But let's go ahead and move on to the shimmers and the multi-chromes that are in here. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe off my arm and give us a clean slate. Alright, so in this palette we have the shimmers and the multi-chrome singles. So these top two rows right here are going to be the shimmers, and then down here we have the multi-chromes. Obviously I didn't pick up every single one that the brand released because there's a lot of them. It's a huge collection and I just didn't need every single one of them. So I went through and picked out the ones that I thought were really pretty, the ones that were a little bit more unique to my collection at the time, and just kind of started there. Honestly, I had planned on eventually picking up every single one of them, but since I'm starting to have some quality issues with Odin's Eye, I want to keep my eyes on these and see how they age before I build up on it more and put more money into this collection. But let's go ahead and swatch these out. So I'm going to start up here. Again, I will let you know what the names are, but then we'll move on to the multi-chromes after we do the shimmers. So let me put this right here over the mirror, and starting right here, the first shade that we have is going to be Olivia, this absolutely beautiful kind of peachy gold sparkle shade. Let me go ahead and zoom y'all in just a little bit because that's probably not going to be the best shot, but that is the first shade, Olivia. All right, so I think that's going to be a better shot. Moving on, the next shade that we have is going to be Ella. And this is a really pretty iridescent shimmer shade. It has a nice, pretty like gold reflect to it. And that is that shade right there. Now, some of these first ones are going to be my older ones. They're probably closer to that 2-year mark. So far, they still feel nice and creamy. They don't feel like they're dried out. They still feel like they're swatching out really nicely. So hopefully these are going to last. But the next one that we have is going to be the shade Chloe. Go figure, I have a purple shimmer. Purple is my absolute favorite, and that one is so, so beautiful. Look at that. Look at that beautiful reflection that these have. Moving on, our next shade is going to be Lucy, and it's this really pretty orange one. This one feels like it's drying out actually. It's still picking up nicely, but it definitely doesn't feel as creamy as those other ones. It feels a little bit thicker and a little bit like putty-like, and I don't remember any of those feeling like that when I first picked them up, but it's still performing nicely. It looks absolutely beautiful when I swatched it out, so it's going to stay. If it performs, it is going to stay. The next shade that we have is going to be Laura. This one feels nice and smooth and creamy, so far we only have one that feels like it's starting to kind of change a little bit, but that is the shade Lucy. And our last shade on the top row is going to be Luke. It's a really pretty like brown purple shade. Look at that, absolutely gorgeous. So again, we have the shades Olivia, Ella, Chloe, Lucy, Laura, and Luke. All right, so starting on the second row, we have our first shade, which is going to be Samuel. This is a really pretty silver shimmer shade. Wow, look at that. That is incredibly beautiful. I need to put that one all over my lid at some point. The next shade that we have is going to be Sif, and that's spelled S-I-F. Absolutely beautiful. Look at these. These are swatching out really nicely. With the exception of this one shade right here, I'm not having any issues with these feeling dried out, chunky, or anything like that, but that is the shade Sif. Up next, we have the shade Soul, which is spelled S-O-L. This one doesn't feel dried out either. I kind of halfway expected it to, just because it's more of an orangey shade, but look at how beautiful that is. Oh my gosh, you can't deny that these are absolutely stunning. Next, we have the shade Ve, I think is how you pronounce it. It's just V-E. Really pretty like gunmetal shade with a little bit of like some sparkle to it. That one is absolutely beautiful. All of these are nice and smooth, by the way. None of them feel chunky or gritty or anything like that. Next, we have the shade Oscar, which is a really pretty like salmon pink shade. Oof, I love that one too. That one is absolutely gorgeous. And then the last shade that we have for the shimmer formula is going to be Albin, A-L-B-I-N. And that is that shade right there, a really pretty like rose gold shade. So those are all of the shimmer formula singles that Odin's Eye has. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe my arm off once again, and we're going to move on to the multi-chromes. But before I do that, let's run through these names real quick. I almost forgot. So up first we have Samuel, then we have Sif, Sol, Vey, Oscar, and Albin. All right, moving on to the multi-chrome. So the first shade that we have is going to be Maja, and that's M-A-J-A. So I'm going to swatch that one out right there. Ugh, that one is so incredibly beautiful. I will turn the lights down once I've swatched all these out so we can see all the beautiful shifts the best that we can. The next shade that we have is going to be Isabella, which is this one right here. Oof, absolutely stunning. That one is so, so pretty. The next one that we have is going to be Leon. How gorgeous is that one? I don't have a whole lot of like red multi-chromes and shimmers in my collection, so that's part of the reason I picked this one up. I just thought it was insanely beautiful. Like, look at that. Oh, so pretty. Next we have the shade Luna, which is a really pretty iridescent multi-chrome. Like, look at all those beautiful flips. Swatch that one out right there. And build that up a little bit. Next we have the shade Lilly. Another really pretty sort of iridescent multi-chrome. This one has a little bit of a different base to it. The first one almost has like a white base, and this one has a little bit more of like a pinky base to it. Still absolutely beautiful. And then we have the shade Loki, and honestly, I picked this one up because it's called Loki, but look at how gorgeous that is. It has like a red to purple flip to it. So stunning. Oh my gosh. And then the last of our multi-chromes is going to be the shade Matthew, and I thought this one was just so incredibly unique. It has these really pretty, almost like, I don't know, shifty sparkles in it, almost like it's holographic. It is so incredibly beautiful. Hopefully when I turn the lights down, you'll be able to see all those beautiful sparkles, but those are all of the multi-chromes that I have. So let's go ahead and turn the lights down and see if we can see all those beautiful shifts. Alright y'all, so this is what those multi-chromes look like with the lights turned down. I just have my flashlight from my phone on them, and they may not be like the shiftiest thing in the whole world, but they are still absolutely beautiful, so sparkly and reflective. And look at all those colorful sparklers in that last shade that we swatched out. They are so pretty. I do really think these are beautiful. Alright, so moving on to this big palette right here, we have all of my Glaminatrix singles, and these top 4 rows right here are actually going to be the quad bundles that the brand released last year, but I just threw them in here with the rest of my singles because that's pretty much what they are. I don't think that you can get these individually. I think you can only get them in bundles, but we're still going to go through them anyway. And these bottom 2 rows down here are going to be the Glimmering Creatures bundles, and I can't remember which ones I got exactly. I can't remember if this is 2 bundles or 3 bundles. I can't remember which ones, but I'll have the shade names listed, and then I'll also make sure I put down in the description box exactly which bundles they are. But let's go ahead and jump into this. So let me go ahead and put this over the mirror just because I don't want to have the light reflecting so that we can see everything going on. Okay, so we're going to start right over here, and the first shade that we have is going to be Gilded, and all of these shimmers on these top 4 rows are going to be their diamond metallics and then just a matte formula. So here is the first one. These are very smooth, very sparkly. They're not gritty, they're not pressed glitters or anything like that. They are just insanely reflective and sparkly on the eye. The next shade that we have is going to be Play Hard, and this one is going to be a matte shade. It's a really pretty like warm tone taupey like brown shade. Absolutely beautiful. These are so nice and smooth. This is a beautiful formula from Glaminatrix. These bundles that they came out with last year is what really made me fall in love with the brand because the formula is just absolutely incredible. Okay, the next shade that we have is going to be Chestnut. Another absolutely beautiful sparkly shade right there. Look at how beautiful that is. So insanely reflective. And then we have the shade Papaya. Now I'm not swatching these out in the bundles either, but this is like a quad, this is a quad, this is a quad, this is a quad. I'm just going in order they're laid out because that's how I have them written out on my phone. I figured it would be easier that way instead of trying to pull all of these out and flip them over. I thought we would be here forever, so that's why I'm going in the order that I'm going. But the next shade that we have is going to be Sparkling. This one is so pretty. Oh my gosh, look at that. It's almost like a silver shade, but it has like the tiniest bit of like a minty undertone to it. Absolutely stunning. And it does go with this green quad right here. And then the next one that we have is going to be the shade Cocktails. It's a really pretty murky green shade yet again. I think this one might be a little bit more, I don't want to say vibrant, but it doesn't seem to be quite as murky and deep as the one from Odin's Eye, that more kind of pea green shade that we swatched out earlier, but still absolutely beautiful. Our next shade is going to be Elegance. This one is a really pretty like copper shade. Look at how beautiful that is. It almost has like a rose gold undertone to it, but absolutely beautiful. And then our last shade on the top row is going to be Buff. Look at how pretty that is. It has a nice kind of warm undertone to it. I really love the undertones in these shades. They were really, really pretty. So let's run through these really quick. So the shades that we have are going to be Gilded, Play Hard, Chestnut, Papaya, Sparkling, Cocktails, Elegance, and Buff. All right, so moving on to the next row, we have the shade Chaser, which is a beautiful plum shade. Oh my gosh, I absolutely love this one. Let's build up that swatch just a little bit more. Look at how pretty that is. And then we have the shade Floor, which is going to be this one right here. Oh, so pretty. I loved this quad right here. It was one of my favorites that they released. Next we have the shade Seed, which is going to be a really pretty deep brown shade. And then we have the shade Antique, which is a really pretty antique gold shade. It almost has like a gold, orange, like green flip to it. It's absolutely beautiful in person. Next we have the shade Showbiz, which is a really pretty deep green shade. This one goes with that green quad. I really loved the green one as well. I thought it was beautiful. And then we have the shade Mushroom. This one is absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. Again, we have like a really pretty gunmetal silver color, but I feel like this one is a little bit deeper than the one from Odin's Eye. It's just absolutely gorgeous, and I love how shimmery it is as well. Next we have the shade Ravish. It's a really pretty warm tone brown shade as well. And then our last one for the second row is going to be the shade Firefly. Stunning. Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. So once again, we have the shades Chaser, Floor, Seed, Antique, Showbiz, Mushroom, Ravish, and Firefly. All right, next row, our first shade is going to be Admirer. Ooh, look how pretty that is. Oh my gosh, that is incredibly stunning. And then we have the shade Creme right there. Really pretty pinky neutral shade. Very nice transition. Up next we have the shade Venom. Ooh, that one is beautiful as well. I just love these metallic sparkle shades. They are incredibly beautiful. Diamond metallics, that's what they call them. They are just so incredibly beautiful. Next we have the shade Mustard. My kind of like pukey yellowish shade. I think it's absolutely beautiful on the lid. And then we have the shade Angel. That one's beautiful as well. Really like that one. And then last for this row, we have the shade Delicate, which is a really pretty baby pink shade. Picked up a little too much. Look at how beautiful that is. I don't know if you can see it really well on my skin because it kind of blends in a little bit, but that is going to be our third row. So again, we have the shade Admirer, Creme, Venom, Mustard, Angel, and Delicate. All right, fourth and final row for our quads. The first shade we have is going to be Cocoa. This one is one of my favorites as well. I really love the undertone of this one. It almost looks like a full-on neutral, but it has just a little bit of like that purple berry undertone to it. So incredibly beautiful. And then we have the shade Mesmerize, which is this one right here. Again, it has like this really pretty deep purple base to it, but you can make a really pretty look with just those two shades right there. Kind of buff that in the crease and put that all over the lid. Be stunning. The next shade that we have is going to be Matcha, and again, it's a really pretty like pukey green shade. Now that is a true pukey green shade, and I think it's absolutely beautiful in all the best ways. Up next we have the shade Woodland. Another really pretty green shimmery shade, a little bit lighter. This one actually looks really pretty on the inner corner, or kind of like right in the center of the lid as a topper shade. It's really, really beautiful. And then our last matte is going to be the shade Orchid. Oh, I love that one. So, so pretty. And then lastly for this row, we have the shade Rouge. And that is a true like rose gold shade. So again, we have the shade Cocoa, Mesmerized, Matcha, Woodland, Orchid, and Rouge. All right, so now we're going to swatch out the Glimmering Creatures collections, and I'm almost sure that there's 3 collections here, and you can kind of tell by the shade names how they're grouped together, but again, I'll leave it down below the description box. So the first shade that we have is going to be Panda, and look at how beautiful this is. It's like a really pretty champagne shade, so incredibly gorgeous. Now these are a little bit smoother as far as like shimmer goes compared to these up here. These have a little bit more of like that sparkle going on, and these are just more of like a smooth glimmer. The next one that we have is going to be Kitten, and it's this really pretty pink shimmer shade right here. These don't have shifts to them or anything like that, neither did these up here. They're just a really pretty shimmer shade, but look at how beautiful and reflective those are when the lights hit them. Up next we have the shade Bear. It's a really pretty brown shimmer shade. Look how beautiful and rich that is. Oh my gosh, absolutely gorgeous. And then we have the shade Iguana, which is this one right here. This one is another kind of like bronzy shimmer shade. It has a little bit more of like a brown base than this one does over here, but it's not quite as deep as this one. Up next we have the shade Python, really pretty green shimmer shade right here. Oh, I love that one. And then the last one that we have is going to be Gecko. And this one is also like another champagne shade, but it has a little bit more of a translucent base compared to this first one right here, which was called Panda. And I feel like Panda also has a little bit more of like a pinky undertone to it. They're very similar, but they're also very different. But you can really tell when I kind of hold my arm up and rotate it that they're not the same shade. But let's run through these once again. So we have the shade Panda, Kitten, Bear, Iguana, Python, and Gecko. All right, so moving on to our last and final row, the first shade that we have is going to be Fox. This one is so beautiful. Look at that one. Oh my gosh, so smooth, so reflective. And then we have the shade Mink right here, which is another one of those really pretty silver shades. It has a little bit more base than the ones up here. Next we have the shade Lion, another sort of coppery brown shimmer shade, but this one is a little bit warmer. That first one I feel like was a little bit more neutral, but still beautiful. Up next we have the shade Chameleon, which is a really pretty purple shimmer shade. You know I love my purples, and that one is stunning. And then we have the shade Skink right here. This one has a little bit of like that green gold flip going on to it. Not quite a flip, it just has a little bit like a shift going on, but really, really pretty. And the last shade that we have is going to be Komodo. And as I'm swatching this out and sitting here thinking about it, I think this is only 2 of the Glimmering Creatures bundles. I think they only have 3 of them. They might have 4. I'm not sure at this point, but I'm pretty sure that these first 6 over here is one, and then these 6 over here are another one. But those are going to be the last 6 of the Glimmering Creatures singles. Oh my gosh, I cannot speak. That is going to be the last 6 of the Glimmering Creatures shimmers. So once again, we had the shade Fox, Mink, Lion, Chameleon, Skink, and Komodo. Alright, so let's go ahead and move on to this little guy right here from Fantasy Cosmetica. This is the Lost Library collection that they released, I want to say towards the end of 2023, but these are all holochrome shades, and these are so incredibly beautiful. They're a little bit different from anything else that they released in their palettes, but they're still stunning. So let's go ahead and lay this out right here and run through these. So the first shade that we have is going to be Tomb. These are very, very smooth. They are nice and reflective, absolutely beautiful. They're not chunky. They don't have any glitter in them. They're just incredibly beautiful. And once again, I will turn the lights down so y'all can see a little bit more of that holographic shift that these shades have going on. The next one that we have is going to be Scroll. And this one is a really pretty sort of iridescent shade. Beautiful inner corner, beautiful topper, brow bone. You can even use this one as a highlighter if you want more of that holographic effect. It's absolutely beautiful, but you can see on my fingers right there, even those little shifts that they have in them, they're so beautiful. Up next we have the shade Grimoire. So beautiful. It has like a nice little purple flip to it, but look at that. Oh my gosh. These are beautiful. I feel like these were very underhyped. It was kind of a under the radar release. I feel like people talked about them and then that was it. You never heard from them again, but I really love these. The next one that we have is going to be Song. This one is like a true holographic shade to me. Like when I think of a holo shade, that's what I think of. It has more of that silvery base to it and it just has all those colorful sparkles in it. And then we have the shade Book, which is going to be that one right there. And last but not least, we have the shade Codex. Oof, so beautiful. I just love these. I think they go with the collection and the aesthetic of the brand beautifully. Alright, so running through these one more time, we have the shade Tomb, Scroll, Grimoire, Song, Book, and Codex. Now, I'm not sure if these are still available on the Fantasy Cosmetica website. I'm pretty sure they are. I don't think that they've like retired or discontinued anything as of yet. And I know that you can get these individually, so you do not have to get these as a bundle. If there's just like 1 or 2 shades that kind of stick out to you, you can purchase these individually. Alright, so that is what all those beautiful holochrome shadows look like with the lights turned down, and once again my flashlight for my phone, and I'm telling you, the camera is not doing these justice. They are so sparkly and all of those little holographic shimmers in them. They are just insanely beautiful. Alright, so moving on, we have some single shadows from Cleonad, and Cleonad has the most beautiful multi-chrome shadows I have ever seen. These are all from their stained glass collection, and this was actually a bundle that came out for spooky season, I think in 2023, and I had never tried them before, and I find it to be very overwhelming because they have so many different shades, and this was like the perfect way to introduce me to the brand. But let's go ahead and run through these. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up once again. Alright, so up first we have the shade Illumination. Ooh, this one is so incredibly beautiful. I absolutely love these, and I do not get as much use out of these as they deserve because these are incredibly beautiful. Like I said, Cleonad has some of the most beautiful multi-chrome shadows on the market. They're a little bit pricey, but they're very beautiful and the quality is impeccable. Next, we have the shade Climbing Vine. Oh, look at that. It's like a blue-purple flip to it. Doesn't get any prettier than that, and these are going to have a really strong flip to them, and hopefully when I turn the lights down you'll be able to see it even better, but the camera is even picking it up a little bit right now. And the next shade that we have is going to be Royal Pear. Look at that, so beautiful, so smooth, so reflective. Love it. Up next we have the shade Carving, and this one is insanely beautiful. It has like this green, brown, gold flip to it. Very unique in my collection and absolutely stunning. This next shade is one of my absolute favorites. It's the shade Ferric. It's one I had my eyes on for the longest time, and one of the reasons I actually picked up this bundle over the other two that they were offering, because I really wanted this shade. But look at how gorgeous that is. Oh my gosh. I cannot wait for y'all to see these with the lights turned down. Like I said, I'm hoping you can see all the flips. And the last one that we have in the center row is going to be Gargoyle, a really pretty green shade. It is a black-based multi-chrome, but I don't ever have any issues with their black-based multi-chromes creasing on me or anything like that. Sometimes I do from other brands, but I don't seem to with Cleonid. And moving on to our bottom row, we have the shade Shard, which is another really pretty like blue purple multi-chrome, but this one is a little bit deeper compared to the first one that has like that blue purple flip to it. It's just absolutely beautiful. I look at that with that green in there as well. Ugh, gorgeous. Next we have the shade Iron Gate. Love it. Oh my gosh, these are so incredibly beautiful. I could use these every single day and just be so happy. And the last one that we have is going to be Radiance. This one is definitely a little bit softer. I kind of dug my finger in there pretty hard, didn't I? But this one is a true like translucent base to it, so it's a perfect topper inner corner, but it has like this really pretty like green to like pink flip to it. It's stunning. All right, so running through these again, we have the shade Illumination, Climbing Vine, Royal Pear, Carving, Ferric, Gargoyle, Shard, Iron Gate, and Radiant. All right, so once again, the lights are turned down so y'all can see all those beautiful shifts, and I hope the camera is picking them up and doing them justice, but these are absolutely beautiful. Nice and shifty, nice and smooth, reflective. Ugh, gorgeous. All right, so moving on to this palette, we have all of my Terra Moons singles, and then these two down here are just random ones that brand sent me. This one is from Bella Beauté Bar, and then this one is from Sydney Grace. But let's go ahead and start with the ones from Terra Moons, and then we'll also swatch those out as well. All right, so starting with Terra Moon, the first one that we have is Ripple in Time, and y'all, these are incredibly beautiful. This is another stunning formula if you're looking for multi-chrome singles. These are probably the newest singles to my collection. I tried Terra Moons for the first time last year, and I am blown away by the quality of these. These are impeccable. The next shade that we have is going to be Eagle Nebula. Now, I will say these are a little softer. Some of these can be a little bit more chunky, a little bit more piecey. None of them feel gritty or dry or anything like that, but just depending on your preferences, you might want to be a little careful when purchasing these. I would definitely say look up swatches and things like that on Instagram, here on YouTube, because some of them do have a little bit more of a chunk to them, but look at how beautiful those are when they swatch out. And you know what? That's probably how I should have been showing y'all the shifts to begin with, but those are so insanely beautiful. All right, the next shade that we have is going to be Radioactive Garden. Some of these are from newer collections, some of these are from older collections, but I picked all of these up at the same time. And look at that. Oh my gosh, insanely beautiful. And you can already see those shifts. Like, look at that. Those are so beautiful. Our next shade is going to be Star in Virgo. Ugh, so beautiful. I tried to pick up just smooth ones because I'm not a big fan of like chunky shimmers, but some of these are definitely a little bit more chunkier than what I prefer, but as you can see, they smooth out really nicely on the eye. I find that these apply better with a finger than they do with a brush, so just personal preference thing, but I wanted to put that little tip out there. The next shade that we have is going to be Saturn Sunset. Oh my gosh, but you see what I mean, how some of them are just a little bit more chunky and they have a little bit more of like a translucent base to them, but they build up on themselves really nicely and they smooth out really pretty as well. And then the last one for the top row is going to be the shade Moontide, and this one is nice and smooth but still absolutely beautiful. Like, look at that one. I don't have anything like these in my collection. Look at those shifts. Look at how smooth and reflective they are. Incredibly beautiful. I definitely want to pick up more singles from Terra Moons. I think they have so many unique shades, and I really, really enjoy this formula. So running through these one more time, we have the shade Ripple in Time, Eagle Nebula, Radioactive Garden, Star in Virgo, Saturn's Sunset, and Moontide. And again, I'm going to turn my lights down for y'all on this little section before we move on to the next ones, just so you can see what they look like under that dim lighting. All right, next row, here we go. We have Witch's Broom Nebula. This one is incredibly beautiful. I think this bottom row is from a newer collection. Probably not the newest collection at this point, but a fairly new collection. But look at that. Oh my gosh. And then we have the shade Vampire Star. And this one really caught my eye when I was looking online because it has some incredibly beautiful shifts. Like if I'm looking at this one head on, it looks green. But when I look at it on camera, it's almost like this pinky purple shade. Very unique and very beautiful. Definitely a little bit more on that PC side, but still just stunning and 100% worth it. Like look at that. Like look at that. Oh my gosh. These are the kind of multi-chromes that I absolutely love. But our next shade is going to be Cosmic Collision. And this one right here. So beautiful. You can definitely tell I have a type when it comes to multi-chromes. I love the purple flips. They're so incredibly beautiful. And then our last shade is going to be Veil Nebula. And that is one on my pinky right there. So let's swatch her out. And that is all 4 of those on that next row. This is what they look like on my fingers, so you can see all those beautiful shifts. Very purple and pinky leaning shades, very my type, but still absolutely beautiful. So once again, we have the shade Witch's Broom Nebula, Vampire Star, Cosmic Collision, and Veil Nebula. Now I'm going to go ahead and swatch these 2 shades out really quick, and then I'll turn the lights down so you can see the shifts. These 2 aren't going to be shifty, but I might as well swatch them out really quick. All right, so this one right here is from Bella Beauté Bar, and this is the shade Glazed Donut. So let's swatch this one out right here. I think they randomly threw this one in one of my orders. I know I didn't order it, but that's how I ended up with this one. Picks up very thick, but it's really smooth. I wouldn't say it's like super wet feeling. Honestly, I'm not really impressed with this one. Maybe there's a reason they threw it in for free. It just, I don't know, it swatched out fine, but it didn't feel the best whenever I picked it up. It looks absolutely beautiful though. But then this one over here is from Sydney Grace, and this is in the shade Comforter. Now this one they gave me for free whenever I ordered the next bundle of singles you're about to see, which is the In Mel's Memory bundles. I ordered all of those with the big palette that has all my Glaminatrix singles in it, and they forgot to include the singles, so whenever they actually sent me the singles, they threw this one in as like a little, I guess, we're sorry, we appreciate you, thank you for your purchase type thing. And they didn't have to, but it's really, really beautiful, very smooth. Sydney Grace has an incredible formula that just looks beautiful on all lids, whether you've got texture, they're deep set, you've got some wrinkles, crinkles, a little bit more mature lids, they're just very beautiful. But that is going to be those last 2 shimmers. So again, we have Glazed from Bella Beauté Bar, and then we have Comforter from Sydney Grace. And there are all of those beautiful shades under the dim lighting. All right, that brings us to the last of my single shadows, and these are all from Sydney Grace. So this is the In Mel's Memory bundle that I was just telling you about, and I believe that you can still get this on the Sydney Grace website, and I'm pretty sure most, if not all of these, you can buy individually as well if there's just like a certain shade that pops out to you. But I put mine in a palette all by itself. I actually used to store this with my palettes, but it is a group of singles, but I do have them in the order that Mel Thompson had laid them out as her vision of the Natasha Denona MIDI Retro palette that unfortunately she never got to see come to fruition. But let's go ahead and run through these. So first shade, top row, we have Green Mist. Now these aren't going to have flips or anything like that to them, but they are still very beautiful, very reflective. And like I was saying, Sydney Grace has just a really pretty formula. It is really nice for all levels, whether you're a beginner, whether you're experienced, you have more mature lids, you have younger lids. They are just a beautiful formula and they look beautiful on everybody. The next shade that we have is going to be Peyton's Puppy. I love the shade names too. I think they're really cute and really fun, but this one is just a really pretty kind of soft peachy pink shade. And I will say, the more I look at this bundle, a lot of these pink shades look very similar, but they do swatch out very differently. I don't know if we necessarily needed every single one of them, but it is what it is at this point. The next shade that we have is going to be Cadet. I feel like mine are definitely starting to dry out just a little bit from age. I've had these for quite a while, but they're still swatching out beautifully. I hope they still perform beautifully on the lid, so for now they're going to stay. But the next shade that we have is going to be Honeydew. This is a really pretty sort of matte green shade. Look at that. That is gorgeous. That is so pigmented and absolutely beautiful. I really love that shade. All right, next we have Bravo. I forgot how beautiful these are. I don't have any palettes other than Tiny Marvels from Sydney Grace. I've never purchased any of the other ones. I would love to, just because the formula is beautiful, but they do a lot of neutral palettes and they just don't always call my name. But that is going to be the first row. So running through these, we have Green Mist, Peyton's Puppy, Cadet, Honeydew, and Bravo. But let's move on to the next row before I clear this off. So the first shade we have is going to be Green Mango, which is this one right here. This is one of my favorite shades from this bundle. I think it's so incredibly beautiful. I just love how soft but reflective it is. The next one that we have is going to be Blushed. It's this really pretty rose gold shade, which is that one right there. Next we have the shade Honestly, which is another really pretty kind of dusty rosy pink shade. You can see this one's a little bit deeper than this one up here, which is Peyton's Puppy. It's a deeper base. It has a little bit more of that dusty pinkiness to it, whereas this first one is a little softer and it has more of like a peachy tone to it. So like I said, they do look very similar in the pan, but they swatch out very differently. The next one that we have is going to be Keep It Fun. Now these shimmers are definitely starting to dry out on me just a little bit. And it's kind of the same with the greens as well. A lot of them look very similar in the pan, but you can see they're swatching out very differently. And our last one for this row is going to be Fairy Tale. Really pretty peachy pink shade, a little bit more bold and vibrant than that first one, Peyton's Puppy. You can see the differences right there. But that is going to be our second row. So going through these, we have Green Mango, Blushed, Honestly, Keep It Fun, and Fairy Tale. All right, next row, the first shade we have is going to be Aim High. This is a really pretty, almost translucent pink shade. It's like a ballet slipper pink. So beautiful. I don't have a lot of shades like this in my collection either, believe it or not. I know that's kind of an oddball to not have a lot of, but I feel like you just don't get a whole lot of those shades. All right, the next one that we have is going to be Moon Landing. This is a really pretty kind of taupey shade. Not my absolute favorite, but it does go really pretty with pink. I do like pink and gray together, and I think that's a really pretty combination. Next we have the shade San Jose, another really pretty pink shade. This one has a little bit more of like a dusty peach shade to it, so it's a really good counterpart to this first one over here, which is called Peyton's Puppy. These two go together really nicely, so this is just more of a dustier version of that shade. The next one we have is going to be Relax. Just a really pretty neutral brown shade. It doesn't lean too warm, it doesn't lean too cool, just a nice neutral shade. And the last one for this row is going to be Turtle Bay. It's a really pretty Kelly green shade. All right, so running through these once again, we have the shade Aim High, Moon Landing, San Jose, Relax, and Turtle Bay. But let's move on to our last row and our final singles that we have to swatch for this video. So the first one that we have is going to be Vanguard. This one is a little bit more of like a deeper brown shade. It does have a little bit more warmth to it than that first one, and it has a really pretty murkiness to it. The next shade that we have is going to be Golden Rose. That is this one right here. It's like a really pretty like magenta pink shade. Absolutely stunning. Again, these shimmers feel very dry when I'm swatching them out, but they're performing really nicely. Next we have the shade Commission. This is like a really pretty antique gold shade. Look at that. Oh, so beautiful. It has a little bit of like a greeny base to it, but still definitely more on that neutral side depending on what you pair it with. Next we have the shade Rover, which is going to be this really pretty satin shade right here that has a little bit of like a purpley base to it. Definitely more of like a chocolate neutral, but you can see it has just a little bit of a purple base. It's stunning. And the last one is going to be Beyond, and this is going to be a really deep like berry brown shade. It has a little bit of that purpleness to it, kind of like this shade right here. So these two go together beautifully. But running through these one more time, we have the shade Vanguard, Golden Rose, Commission, Rover, and Beyond. Alright y'all, so that is going to complete today's video, and I hope y'all enjoyed it. I had a really good time swatching out all of these shadows for y'all and seeing the beautiful shimmers, shift, and sparkles, and I even got some ideas for some future BYOP palettes. But if you have any ideas, leave them down below in that comment section. Let's have that conversation, and as always, I want to thank you all so much for watching my video and spending your time with me. It truly does mean so much to me, and if you like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up before you leave. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click on that notification bell so that you can be notified of all my future posts here on my channel. I do post quite a few videos every single week, and I wouldn't want you to miss one. But until my next video, have a good one.